If you would like to make a film, anybody want to make a film? Okay, so to make a film, you need money, you need an idea, and you need to have a vision. I sat in a coffee shop in Horsham with Sarah in December 2012, and we were thinking about making a documentary, and we thought, no, let's make a film. And 6 months later, we started making this film. It's Britain's most expensive cooperative film ever. So, you go to see a lot of films and you could say, well, it's got some limitations, but you have to put everything into perspective. If any of you follow Formula One, you've got teams with different budgets and films have different budgets. This was made for £255,000 cash. You were competing against films that are made for 60, 70 million. So, if you said to Sarah and I, okay, we'll give you 5 million to remake this film, well, then you can go and get some actors that perhaps you'd be more familiar with. You can have more planning. You can do a lot more. So you have to always think. The first thing when you watch a film, I would always say is, what's the budget? What did they have to work with to do that? So if you put this in perspective, I'd say that if I gave any of you £250,000 and said, go and make this film in 6 months' time, you'd find it, it's challenging. I tell you, it really is. And 1,000 people helped make this film. You see some of the credits here. And we went from nothing to filming in 6 months' time. So how you go about getting there? First of all, Sarah and I came up with the idea we'd make a film, and straight away we decided when would we start this film. And because she teaches and she works with you guys, we had to film it in the summer holidays. So basically the whole timing of making this film was based on when she was on holiday. So that's kind of an unusual way of making a film, because normally you make a film, you write a script, and then you make it when the actors are available. So we filmed this film in the UK, and then we also went to Jordan to film some of it, which was had its own challenges. So you kind of think about the idea, then we wrote the script, and then we got to find other locations. This is a film that's location intensive. You can see there's many locations, and if you live in Sussex, you'll see we're down at a railway line, we're at Gatwick Airport, we're at hotels, we're in Horsham Town. All those things take planning. The scene that's filmed at the end of this the scene at the end of the film, which is at South Lodge Hotel. South Lodge Hotel is probably the #1 hotel outside London. That's where they held the G7 summit. So to pull that off, to get those people to allow us to film there, takes a lot of negotiation. So there's a lot going on. It's a team effort. Sarah was the senior assistant producer, so basically she's second in charge of making the film. Below that, there comes location managers, budget people, casting people, sound people. There's a whole host of people that make the film. Once we've made the film, then we need to sell the film or get it exposure. So how you go about that in a nutshell is you need a sales company. And the sales company, the first thing they say to you is, what's the budget of the film, who's in it? Because, if you're a sales company, you want to sell a film with Robert De Niro, Bruce Willis, because it's easy. Because if a guy walks into a cinema and it says Bruce Willis, Robert De Niro, they think, oh, that film's going to be good, whatever it is. It's the names that pull in people, but the names cost money. Robert De Niro wouldn't, to get somebody like Robert De Niro in that film would have been $2 million. So, when you've only got £250,000, you're not going to get very far. So you get a sales company, and then the sales company start to sell the film by going to markets. You hear about places like the Cannes Film Festival. The Cannes Film Festival, the festival part where people go to watch films, is just a tiny part of what happens at Cannes. What really happens at Cannes is the business of buying and selling films. Like a commodity. People buy and sell oranges in one place, or stocks and shares in London. Where at Cannes they'll be buying and selling films. So somebody will come in from Swedish TV and they say, okay, I need 10 films for the winter program. I want 5 thrillers, I want 2 films about this, and I want a film about that. And he will shop around and find what he wants to put on the TV. When you have a film like this, you create a new dimension to it, because this is a very political film. It's raising an ongoing public awareness issue, and that will make some broadcasters a bit nervous. So, for instance, you will watch Sky TV. Sky TV, the news is all sponsored by an airline. So, draw your own conclusions why this issue doesn't appear on Sky News very often, where it's on ITV News a lot, and BBC News. So there's a lot of these other dimensions. That's a quick overview of how you go about making a film. But I'd really like to take any questions. Anything that you like, dislike, just let's be really frank about it, and let's see where we go. Question? She suddenly looks, oh no, don't ask me. That chap over there.
I like the film, Tristan, thank you. What was one of the biggest barriers to making the film?
Biggest barrier to making the film was, we made the film, you know the guy who gives the video testimonial at the end, he's got the pipe? That was the last scene filmed, because what we wanted to do is make the film and then try and get the biggest name possible, because we thought that was our best hope. So we finished the film, and 6 months later we filmed that scene. And we got so close to getting one of the biggest actors in the world to do that part. He agreed, his management agreed, and it went to his foundation, because he's such a big guy, I won't do names, but he's such a big guy that he has a foundation that looks after his whole kind of empire. And the foundation said no. And then when we looked into it, we found out that the foundation, one of the bosses of the foundation used to work for the Boeing Corporation. So, you know, there's a lot of influence going on. So the hurdles were trying to get the biggest names possible. So what we're left with is a film with some really good actors within the UK, but not big names. And that's, therefore, is it going to be a struggle for the film and the rest of its life. It's like if you have a good Formula 1 car, you need a big driver in it. There's no point giving it to me to drive. More questions? Yes, Lee?
Is this film only showed here, or is it showed elsewhere?
No, it's showing, basically how we release this film is we're doing it in partnership with a company called R-Screen. So basically R-Screen allows the public to book this film anywhere in the country. So, you know, so it's booked in Henley, Liverpool, Clapham, Notting Hill, it's just done Chichester, Brighton, and it continued to grow as people wanted to book it. Whereas a studio film, a film that's made for 50, 60 million, a studio has the distribution power to say, we will put this film in 200 cinemas across the UK. And the only reason they can do that is because the cinema know that there's big names in the film. And that's one of the problems you're coming up against. So this is a film where, you know, we've got parts of this film shown on the BBC News because of the issue, whereas another film, you know, mightn't be. And, you know, you look at the film reviews are interesting. You know, I've had a guy ring me up and say, it's the worst film he's ever seen in his life. And then the same day I've had somebody else ring me up and say it was the most thought-provoking film they'd ever watched ever. So you get this whole spectrum. But you have to understand who are these people reviewing these films? You know, who's pulling their chains? You know, somebody wrote a terrible review about the film, and when I was talking to a news person about it, they said, do you know that that person is the main writer for the airline industry? So you think, well, of course they're not going to do a good job. And then, so people who kind of really look at the issue, they kind of give it, but on average, the film's scoring about 60%. So that's what it's kind of getting. You know, and at 60%, if you did A-levels or something and you got 60%, you know, it's not a bad effort. So.
Do a plug though, don't we, for tomorrow. Tomorrow, if you're in the area, it is screening at the Hall in Crawley. So tomorrow's the last day that we've got it booked in at the Hall in Crawley. So I know some of you in that area.
So you might also be interested in how do you watch this film? So that you've got a projector up there, and this film is screening as a digital cinema package. It's known as a DCP. It's like a hard drive, and they plug it in up there, and it's a special projector, and the hard drive's encrypted. They provide the cinema with a key called a KDM key, and that releases the film to be played from that hard drive from this time to this time. So it's to stop cinemas like kind of in the evening running an extra screening and pocketing all the money, and the people who make the film don't know about it. So the film's screened on a DCP, digital cinema package. We filmed this on 35mm print, you know, the actual film print, which is incredible. It's more expensive than digital. There's not, today it'd be mainly top-end studio films that would be shot in film, like the Bond films would be shot in film. So we shot it at the same level those guys are doing. Why? Because if you want to film really quickly, when you film in digital format, if you get a really bright light and a really dark light, digital can only kind of do here. If it's too bright, it just gets all washed out, and if it's too dark, you can't see anything. Whereas film's got greater latitude, so if you need to film in a hurry, you can, with film, you need less lighting. So it's more expensive to film with, but it's faster, and that's another reason. It's more robust, especially if you're in Jordan when it's like the Wild West. Any other question?
You see, like, I think you just said it was in Jordan, the one in like the deserts and all that. Did like, you see all the people in it, like all the people that was running, did they all know that you were filming, or like were they just random people?
No, everybody the only people who wouldn't know they were in it were people where you wouldn't be able to recognise them, like the scenes filmed at Gatwick Airport, where they just happened to be there. But in Jordan, most of the people are there. And when we filmed in Jordan, it's quite a funny story. We found this coffee shop in one of the poorest places in the world. I know you probably all think, like Costa, you go into Coke or McDonald's to get something, but here in Jordan, they would just do anything for a coffee. It's the most poor place. And we've got this kind of coffee shop where we've decided to film the scene where the guy gets shot. And they gave it to us for 2 hours for like $100. $100 for them is like a year's pay. And so we have to film really quickly, and it's over lunchtime when they haven't got much business. And it's the grottiest place. If you ate there, you'd probably be on the toilet for the rest of your life. But you're in there and you're filming, and we've got all this blood on the wall. And as soon as we finish, we're packing up, and there's these 2 kids, must have been like 11 or 12, who were coming in to like just get a soda or something. And just as they arrived, there was our art director on her knees cleaning this blood up. And you just see the look on their face, and it's all on the walls. And the other kid just took the other kid and dragged him. As the other kid was looking back, he was pulling his face to like, don't look back. It's probably an Al-Qaeda assassination. You didn't really want to know. So there's some funny things that happen. Any other questions?
I don't know if it's an alright question, but how did you manage to get the funding for this?
Okay, so good question. How do we get the funding? So funding was really difficult. So, this is totally the honest truth. We needed the money to make the film, but 10 days before starting the film, we thought, how much money have we raised? And we did it like crowdfunding, and by going to pilots, flight attendants, crew unions. If you want to make a film, the best people to fund your film are the people who've got a vested interest in having the film made, because they want it made. So we had enough money to film for, I think it was 10 days, and we had to film for 8 weeks. So you can imagine, here you are, 10 days before start of filming, all the locations booked, all the crew booked, all the cast booked, everything booked, and you actually only have 10 days of money. You're not even going to be able to feed people. And you think, what do you do? And this is this huge, so we sat in this room, and we thought, what should we do? And we thought, like the SAS, who dares wins. And we thought, we'll just start, but we won't tell anybody we haven't got enough money. And after 10 days, if we haven't got more money, we'll just say, sorry, we didn't have any money. So we started this thing, so you turn up one day, so you're trying to make the film, but you're actually realizing in 8 days' time it's all over. And then as soon as you film, you get the footage in, you edit it, and you then go out to investors and you say, wow, look at this footage, we've started. And then they go, oh wow, I want to be part of it. There's no easier way to raising money for a film by telling them it's actually happening. It's actually started. Because then, if you're an investor, you think, oh well, it's actually real, it's happening. So you kind of buy into it. Whereas if it's a paper film, well, we don't know when we're going to start, we don't know who's in it, it's less of a sure thing.
Is there anything you feel personally when making the film that you could have improved on?
Oh, loads of things. I watch the film, and you've got to think, a studio film, from when they start, they will probably write the script for about a couple of years, and then they will think about it, and they will do lots of auditions, and they will have loads of time to rehearse. When they're actually filming the scene, they have all day to do a couple of scenes, whereas we didn't have enough development time. So, from thinking about it to filming in 6 months, you think there's just no time at all. So the weakness some of the weakness in the film comes from the fact that it's an express train. So it starts to, that becomes a limitation. But you've got to say to yourself, well, this is about an issue that is big time in the news at the moment. It's front page of a lot of the newspapers, it's on ITV, it's on BBC. This is a very political issue. And for us to get the message out in this format was better than waiting 2 years to have it more polished. So I'd rather if somebody said to me in December 12, when we sat down in a coffee shop, you make the film and you'll get 6 out of 10, or you can wait 2 years and get maybe 7 out of 10, that's a no-brainer. You just want to get it out there. So of course it has its limitations. When you make a film, you've got to be really honest with yourself and think, what could you do better? So it has its weaknesses, but the most important thing is when we do Q&A sessions with kind of the traveling public, they're really outraged, especially, some of you girls are going to fly on airplanes, these chemicals have a risk of infertility, and affect the unborn. You know, these are really hazardous chemicals. So you get on an airplane, you know, you're a month pregnant and you get a good exposure to this. You know, there's a real high risk that you end up later on with a child that's, you know, got difficulties. So, you know, this is why we're making the film, because it's a scandal of epic proportion. Any other questions?
Is Jasper a representation of an actual airline, or is it just kind of an abstract?
Oh, so Jasper's you see, you guys got good questions. Did you tell him that?
No.
I bet you did. When I was at school, when I was 13, I wanted to be a pilot, and my best buddy, he wanted to be in airlines. So he said, oh, why don't we create our own airlines? You know, when you're 13 at school, so we created our own airlines. And he used to come to school and used to say, right, here's my airline schedule. I'm going to fly 3 times a day to Los Angeles with this airplane, then it would go on to Frankfurt and do this. And his airline was called Jasper. And, you know, he went off to become he manages a travel agency and he works in travel. So this was like kind of a...
I didn't tell them, though, that you used to be a captain at BA before you retrained as a director.
Yeah. No, I used to be an airline captain, so that's kind of how I know the story, because it affected me and I lost my career to this. So, you know, it's very real. That guy that we depict in the film, that's based on my best buddy who flew for British Airways, he died of a brain tumour. So, you know, it's very real, all this stuff, you know, however much it may not seem to be real. Any other questions?
What was one of your favourite shots or scenes to sort of film?
For me, was when we were in Jordan, because Jordan, I love the Wild West. You know, like in the UK, if you want to do something, and understandably, there's a lot of health and safety. Over there, anything goes. So here's the scene. We have a scene where the guy arrives and he gets the gun out and he goes bang bang. So when we get there, the day before, I say, have you got the gun? It's a Kalashnikov. And he says, no, we've got problems, the military won't give us Kalashnikov. I said, well, that's no good. He said, but I can get you a plastic one. I said, I don't want a plastic gun, I want a real gun. You know, because you've got to have the weight, and get me some blanks for it. And he said, these are automatic rifles, so if you fire it, it reloads automatically. So you can actually go bang, 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 okay? So the day before, he says, well, I can't get you one. I said, well, you have to get me one. And I said, look, you're the production company in Jordan, you're the guys who meant to sort this, I need a real one, make it happen. And he said, okay. He says, okay, I've got one. So what do you mean you've got one? How do you have a Kalashnikov? He said, just don't ask any questions. I said, okay, no worries, no questions asked. Can you get me the blanks? So he gets the blanks, and we turn up at his Bedouin village with the Kalashnikov and the blanks. And because we're filming on film, it's quite expensive. And I said, okay, let's do a quick rehearsal. So we get the Kalashnikov, and we go bang, and because a blank doesn't have the same kind of gas emission as a real live round, the gun won't reload. So I said, well, that's no good. And he said, no, it's okay, you can go bang and you can reload it manually. I said, that's not how an assassination works. An assassination is bang, 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 gone. You know, it's not bang, hang on, don't anybody move, and just reloading him in. Yeah. So I said, I need it to work. And I said, okay, we'll have to use live ammunition then. And the actress at this point is going, hang on a minute, live ammunition, you out of your mind? I said, no. And her dad was a major in the SAS, so, you know, she's a tough girl. And so I said, I'll tell you what, we'll film this part here where it just appears, and then we'll go off somewhere else to do the real shooting. So he says, great, so we'll do that. So we go off to this other place in the back in the nowhere, this kind of farm. And we've got the camera here, and we've got this guy, and he's just about to shoot. And the art director who's with me says, Tris, have you thought of something? I said, what? She says, look, the guy, the location manager has an assault rifle. You know, everybody's comfortable with guns, and the guy who's about to be your baddie is our driver. And he hasn't asked you, how do I use an assault rifle? They just know. I said, yeah, it is kind of, everybody knows how to use an assault rifle. It's like the Wild West. So anyway, so he goes bang bang, and we film it all, but unfortunately it didn't quite work out. I wanted, the camera didn't run fast enough. The rounds fire and eject so quick that it wasn't quite, we needed to film it at high speed, and the camera couldn't go any higher speed than that. Anyway, so the guy who's, after we've done that, he says to me, oh, do you want to have a go? I say, I want to go. He said, well, have you ever used one? And I just look at him, you know, just like give him this look of death. So he gives me the gun. And because he said don't ask any questions, so I take the gun, and we're firing at a breeze block. And just by good fortune, I mean, I know how to use one of these things, but just by good fortune we fire it, and it splits the breeze block in half, much to my astonishment as much as to his, because he's thinking, God, this guy knows how to shoot, but it was more luck than anything. And so I empty the gun and give it back to him. He says, where did you learn to do that? You know, and he was like really thinking. And I just said, Belfast. You see the look on his face, and he didn't want to ask any more questions either, so he then went on. So it's fun as well, you know, you get to have these fun moments on set. Any other questions?
How did you go about becoming a producer?
How becoming a
Director,
producer?
sorry.
So, a terrorist. So, how to become a producer? When I was ill health, retired from being an airline captain British Airways, I wanted to tell my story, so I went to the National Film Television School. If you get a chance to go there, it's the best in the country, it's awesome. National Film Television School, and they retrained me. So I made a documentary called Welcome Aboard Toxic Airlines, and that was the first one I did. And it came out in 2007, and it triggered 2 calls for a public inquiry. But politics being politics, you know, nobody did anything about it. So we thought, okay, we'll make a film and just keep reminding them. Any more?
Do you have any ideas for future films that you'd like to do?
Yeah, we're going to do a documentary about this. Because there's so much more information we have. And there's so many people we've met that are badly affected, and there's so much cover up to it. We thought it's time to open the cupboard and let all the skeletons come out. So the airline industry are really looking forward to that. Trust me. We won't get any more upgrades.
How did you go about getting permission to film at Gatwick, like overhead shots?
I see, Gatwick was difficult. So what we did is, by fortune, we needed to find some archive footage, and we knew a guy who was making a documentary, and by good fortune he was using the same actress as us, so by good chance we were able to buy the footage of them. So that was quite lucky, you know? These things happen. Any more? Well, it's been nice talking to you. National Film Television School is definitely the place to go, and if you really want to learn the art of filming, just anything, you know, if you just like a handicap, just get a couple of you and just one weekend just make a film about anything. Like you could say, right, I'm going to make a film about you going into Horsham and discovering that actually that guy who's just walked into that shop, he's the most wanted man on the planet. And then you could make a film about it. You know, you could be saying, okay, what do I do? Should I call the police or whatever? And you're like, come on, quick, you know, before he leaves the shop. And he's walking out the shop, you know, come on, ring the police. No, I don't want to ring the police. They can come and get my family, you know. Just make up anything and enter it as a short film. If you send it off to Cannes Film Festival, they have a short film corner. It costs you, I think, £40 to enter. And enter it. Because just imagine if one of you people entered a short film into Cannes, like a 3-4 minute film, imagine if it got selected. You know, you'd be like, you know, my film was screened at Cannes, how cool would that be? You know, give it a go. As they say, who dares wins. Thanks for your time.